Hi dear, welcome to your favorite audiobook channel Wisdom Flicks. Silent moves, big wins, the ultimate guide to strategic thinking that changes your life. Unlock the secret power of quiet strategy. Discover how subtle moves, patient thinking, and silent influence can transform your life. If you're ready to win big without shouting or rushing, this book is your ultimate guide. Master the art of silent moves, big wins. Because true success happens when you move wisely, not loudly. Introduction: Why silent moves win loud games in a world dominated by noise, constant updates, endless opinions, and the relentless pursuit of attention. It's easy to believe that the loudest voice wins. We're encouraged to speak up, show off, and never sit still. But what if that's not where true power lies? What if real strength doesn't come from being seen and heard, but from knowing when to move quietly, think deliberately, and act with intention? This book is about embracing the underrated art of strategic silence, making powerful moves without needing the spotlight. It's about learning to think 10 steps ahead, executing with precision, and allowing your results to speak louder than your words ever could. Silent moves are often mistaken for inaction, but in truth, they're calculated, intentional, and deeply intelligent actions that unfold quietly while the rest of the world is busy making noise. Silent moves are not timid. They are tactical. Think about the greatest strategists in history: military, generals, visionary entrepreneurs, legendary athletes, and even spiritual leaders. The ones who truly changed the game didn't always announce their plans. They watched, they listened, they studied their environment, and when they moved, they did so with such clarity and precision that it often seemed effortless. But behind that simplicity was deep strategy. They understood one of life's greatest truths: the most impactful victories are rarely won in chaos. They are earned in calm, focused silence. This isn't a book about being passive. It's a book about being powerful in a different way. It's about being intentional with your energy, your thoughts, your time, and your actions. It's about knowing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to charge forward and when to hold back. These are the qualities that separate reactive minds from strategic thinkers. Throughout this book, we'll explore how you can train your mind to think strategically in every area of life: your career, relationships, finances, personal growth, and decision-making. You'll learn how to quiet the mental noise so you can see more clearly, observe patterns and people with deeper understanding, make high-quality decisions that have long-term benefits, control your impulses in favor of intelligent, patient actions, influence outcomes without always being seen as the influencer, build a life that's not just reactive, but intentional and visionary. Strategic thinking is not a gift you're born with. It's a skill you can learn. And like all powerful skills, it requires practice, awareness, and mindset. The foundation of this skill is clarity, and clarity often comes in moments of quiet, not chaos. When you learn to embrace those quiet moments, to reflect, plan, and move with precision, you begin to build a life that is not only successful, but deeply aligned with who you are and where you want to go. Consider this: a lion doesn't roar while it's stalking its prey. A master chess player doesn't slam the board when making a winning move. A wise leader doesn't speak to be heard. They speak to create impact. Power, when rooted in strategy, doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be deliberate. The truth is, many people are losing not because they lack talent, intelligence, or drive, but because they are always reacting. They are chasing noise instead of creating direction. They are moving fast, but not thinking deeply. That's where strategic thinking changes everything. It creates space between stimulus and response. It gives you the ability to respond rather than react. And in that space, you gain control. Silent moves are not about hiding. They are about preparing. Big wins are not about luck. They are about leverage. When you combine those two principles, calm, preparation, and intelligent leverage, you become unstoppable. You don't need to shout. You don't need to compete for attention. You simply move in ways that others don't notice until it's too late to catch up. This book is your guide to becoming that kind of person, the one who doesn't just play the game, but understands how to shape it. Someone who wins, not loudly, but deeply. Someone who doesn't just react to life, but leads it.so. If you're tired of the noise, the pressure to perform, and the constant chaos of comparison. This is your invitation to do things differently, to think bigger, to move smarter, to act quietly, and win powerfully. Welcome to Silent Moves, Big Wins. Your life is about to change, not with a bang, but with a shift in mindset that will echo in every decision you make moving forward. Let's begin. Chapter 2. The Strategic Mindset. Think before you move. Every significant achievement in life, whether it's building a career, nurturing a relationship, or making a life-altering decision, begins in the mind. Before there's action, there's thought. And not just any thought, strategic thought. That is the difference between aimless motion and meaningful progress. Strategic thinking isn't about overanalyzing or being paralyzed by indecision. It's about making decisions with purpose, direction, and clarity. It's about pausing to reflect before reacting. It's about playing the long game. Even when the short-term noise is loud, the world conditions us to act fast, to respond immediately, to hustle, move, and keep pace with the external race. But action without direction is like running on a treadmill. You burn energy but stay in the same place. The strategic mindset invites you to step off that treadmill, look around, and choose your path wisely before you move forward. What is a strategic mindset? A strategic mindset is a mental framework that prioritizes thought over impulse, intention over reaction, and outcomes over activity. It's about thinking through your options, understanding your desired results, and aligning your actions with a larger vision. When you operate with a strategic mindset, you ask deeper questions. What is my goal here? What's the best way to reach it? What obstacles might appear, and how will I handle them? What's the cost of this decision, today, tomorrow, and long term? Instead of being pulled by urgency or emotion, you are guided by purpose. And in that guidance, you find control. Why? Most people fail to think strategically. Most people act before they think. They make emotional decisions and justify them with logic afterward. They focus on what feels good now, rather than what's truly good for them later. There are three primary reasons why people don't think strategically. Impatience. In a world of instant gratification, slowing down to think feels counterintuitive. But it's precisely in slowing down that you gain speed in the right direction. Distraction. Constant information overload robs us of the mental clarity needed to think deeply. Strategic thinking requires focus, a rare commodity in the modern world. Lack of vision. Without a clear goal, people react to whatever comes their way. Strategic thinkers know where they're going, which helps them filter distractions and stay on course. Thinking ahead is a superpower. Imagine playing a game of chess where you only think about your next move while your opponent is planning 5 moves ahead. Who wins? Strategic thinking is about foresight. It's the ability to anticipate outcomes, to weigh consequences, and to prepare for what lies beyond the obvious. It's not about controlling everything, but about being ready for anything. This foresight applies in every area of life. In business, it's knowing when to scale, when to pivot, and when to wait. In relationships, it's knowing how your words or actions today might affect trust and connection tomorrow. In personal growth, it's building habits that may not pay off today, but will transform you years from now. When you think before you move, you're not being cautious, you're being calculated. There's a difference. The power of mental maps. Strategic thinkers build mental maps. These are internal representations of the world, outcomes, challenges, and possible routes forward. Before they make a move, they visualize what that move might lead to. They don't just see the first step, they see the chain reaction. They ask, if I do this, then what? What's the second and third consequence of this action? Who will this affect, and how? Does this align with my larger vision? This kind of thinking helps them avoid unnecessary risks and maximize smart risks. It allows them to stay 2 steps ahead in every situation. Emotional discipline as a strategic tool. One of the most underestimated aspects of a strategic mindset is emotional discipline. That means learning how to manage your emotions rather than letting your emotions manage you. Many people sabotage themselves by reacting in anger, fear, jealousy, or ego. These emotional reactions often lead to regrettable actions. But a strategic thinker practices emotional pause. They step back, breathe, and evaluate before speaking or acting. This doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It means channeling it intelligently. The more control you have over your emotions, the more power you have over your decisions. Ask better questions, get better moves. Great strategies come from great questions. Strategic thinkers are curious, not impulsive. They don't rush to answer. They take time to ask. The right question can change your direction entirely. Instead of asking, "What should I do next?" ask, "What would be the smartest move for my future? What decision aligns with who I want to become? What haven't I considered yet?" The quality of your questions determines the clarity of your strategy. Silence before strategy. There's a quiet strength in pausing before moving. Not to hesitate out of fear, but to observe with intent. Many of life's poor decisions come from speaking too soon, acting too fast, or assuming too much. Strategic thinkers create a gap between stimulus and response. That gap is their advantage. In that space, they process information, study patterns, and gather insights. They don't just see the surface, they see the structure. This silence is not an action. It's preparation. Just like a master sculptor studies the marble before the first strike, the strategic thinker studies the situation before the first move. Thinking on multiple levels. Strategic thinking happens on more than one level. It's not just about winning a situation. It's about positioning yourself for continued success. There are 3 levels to consider: tactical, immediate actions that solve short-term issues; operational, medium-term steps that create stability and momentum; strategic, long-term vision and direction that shape your life trajectory. The average person thinks tactically. The strategic thinker moves between all 3 levels with awareness. For example, imagine someone facing a career decision. A tactical thinker might accept the first job offer with the highest salary. An operational thinker might consider company, culture, and role alignment. A strategic thinker, however, will consider how this job fits into their 10-year vision, what opportunities it unlocks, and what doors it might close. That depth of thinking creates exponential returns. Think slow too. Move fast. Speed is important, but in the wrong direction, it leads to wasted time and regret. The paradox is, when you take time to think first, you can move with greater speed and confidence later. That's the essence of strategic action: slow mind, fast results. The strategic mindset isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. It's about narrowing your focus to expand your impact. And it starts with a simple principle: think before you move. In the next chapters, we'll explore how to sharpen this mindset further through observation, emotional mastery, patience, and precise action. But always remember, your mind is your greatest asset. Use it with intention, and every move you make will carry power behind it. This is how silent moves lead to big wins. This is how strategy becomes your superpower. Chapter 3. Observe more, speak less. The art of perception in a fast-talking, fast-moving world. The one who observes in silence often holds the greatest power. While many rush to speak, to argue, to prove their point, the strategic thinker does something very different. They watch. They listen. They study. Because they know that observation reveals what words often hide. This chapter explores the hidden power behind quiet observation. When you learn to see what others miss and hear what others ignore, you gain a profound advantage. Observation isn't passive, it's preparation. It's not about doing less, it's about seeing more. The power of perception. Perception is your ability to interpret what you see and hear. It's more than eyesight, it's insight. Strategic thinkers train themselves to perceive beneath the surface. They pick up on tone, patterns, inconsistencies, body language, timing, silence, and even hesitation. Anyone can hear what's said. The strategic mind listens to what's not being said. Consider this: a colleague agrees with you, but their voice lacks conviction. A friend says they're fine, but their eyes suggest fatigue or worry. A business partner mentions a delay without offering details. Most people take things at face value and move on. Strategic thinkers pause. They notice. They study the context. They don't jump to conclusions, but they remain aware. Over time, this subtle attention becomes one of their greatest tools. Why speaking less creates more clarity in every conversation. There's an opportunity to understand or to be understood. Most people are eager to be heard. They rush to share their opinion, to defend their position, to give advice or prove knowledge. But the more you talk, the less you absorb. And the less you absorb, the weaker your decisions become. When you speak less, you create space for others to reveal themselves, for ideas to surface, for intentions to become visible. Silence has a unique power. It invites others to fill the gap. Often, people reveal the most when you simply give them room to talk. In negotiations, this technique is known as the strategic pause. After a proposal or question, say nothing. Let the silence do the work. People naturally want to fill it, and in doing so, they often disclose their true concerns, limitations, or motivations. This doesn't just apply to negotiations. In everyday life, relationships, team dynamics, friendships, those who speak less are often perceived as wiser, more grounded, and more in control. Observation in action. Reading people to observe is to collect data. Every gesture, glance, shift in posture, or change in tone offers clues. You don't need to confront or analyze every detail, but being aware of them gives you a map. Here's what strategic observers look for. Micro-expressions. Fleeting facial expressions reveal true emotions: fear, anger, surprise, even when someone tries to hide them. Body language. Is the person open or closed off? Are they leaning in or pulling away? Are their arms relaxed or crossed? Vocal tone and pace. A change in speech rhythm can signal discomfort or excitement. Flat tone might suggest detachment or fatigue. Contradictions. When words and behavior don't match, trust behavior. For example, someone might say they support a decision but avoid taking action on it. Energy shifts. Pay attention to when the energy in a room changes. What triggered it? Who caused it? Strategic thinkers use these cues not to judge, but to understand. Understanding people helps you influence outcomes, build trust, and avoid unseen pitfalls. Speak with precision, not volume. When you observe more, your words carry greater weight. Because you've taken time to understand, your communication becomes sharper, more intentional, and more respected. You don't need to say much to have an impact. In fact, the fewer words you use, the more people tend to listen. It's the contrast between noise and signal. The strategic mind becomes the signal in a noisy world. Before you speak, ask: is what I'm about to say necessary? Will it add value or clarity? Am I reacting or responding? Can this be said better with fewer words? Pausing before speaking isn't weakness, it's strength. It shows maturity, patience, and control. The strategic advantage of the observer in war, in business, in relationships, the side that knows more often wins. Observation is your intelligence gathering tool. It keeps you informed, prepared, and one step ahead. Some of history's greatest leaders were master observers. They weren't the loudest in the room. They were often the quietest. They took in the landscape, studied their rivals, and waited. When they acted, it was swift, smart, and often unexpected. The observer sees what the talker misses. In chess, the master doesn't rush to move. They stare at the board, noticing patterns, calculating threats, seeing beyond the present. Then, when they move, it's with precision. That's the mindset you're building. Slow to speak, fast to understand. Observation as self-mastery. It's not just about watching others. Strategic thinkers also observe themselves. They study their thoughts. They examine their habits. They pay attention to what triggers them, what inspires them, and where they tend to make mistakes. This self-observation builds inner intelligence. You begin to catch yourself before reacting emotionally. You see where you self-sabotage. You notice when your energy is high, when it's low, and what causes the change. When you master observation, you stop being a puppet of your environment and start becoming the architect of it. Action steps to develop strategic observation. Practice silent listening. In your next conversation, say less. Focus fully on the other person. Watch their eyes, hands, and facial movements. Absorb everything. Journal your observations. At the end of the day, write what you noticed, not just events, but subtle shifts, behaviors, feelings. This trains your awareness. Watch, don't judge. Observation is not assumption. Stay neutral. Gather data first. Conclusions come later. Limit your talking. Challenge yourself to use fewer words in meetings or discussions. You'll find others fill the silence with valuable information. Observe patterns. In people, routines, business, or your own habits, patterns are everywhere. Start spotting them. Conclusion: mastering the unseen game. When you observe more and speak less, you stop reacting and start predicting. You stop getting pulled into distractions and start seeing clearly. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself because you already know what's going on. The art of perception is about mastering the unseen game. It's about reading the room before entering, listening beyond words, and understanding human nature at its core. The better you observe, the stronger you think. And the stronger you think, the more powerful your silent moves become. In a world that rewards loud voices, choose to be the quiet force that truly sees. Speak less, observe more, and let your perception guide your path to big wins. Chapter 4. Timing is everything. Acting at the right moment. Success in life isn't just about talent, hard work, or even strategy. It's also about timing. The right idea executed at the wrong time can lead to failure. But a modest move, made at the perfect moment, can change everything. Timing is the invisible force behind every strategic decision. It separates those who get lucky from those who create their luck. It's not about rushing. It's not about waiting forever. It's about knowing when to act and when to hold back. And that skill, mastering your timing, is one of the most powerful tools in your strategic arsenal. In this chapter, we'll uncover the science and intuition of timing. You'll learn how to sense the rhythm of situations, read the signals, and make your move when it matters most. Why timing matters more than you think. Imagine planting seeds in winter. No matter how fertile the soil or how high quality the seeds, the cold will kill the growth. But plant the same seeds in spring, and they bloom effortlessly. That's how life works. Even the best actions can fail if executed at the wrong moment. Strategic thinkers understand this deeply. They don't just ask, "What should I do?" They ask, "When should I do it?" In relationships, timing can mean the difference between connection and conflict. In business, it can mean the difference between breakthrough and burnout. In life, it can mean the difference between growth and stagnation. Great timing amplifies your moves. Poor timing diminishes them. The impulse to act too soon. One of the biggest mistakes people make is acting too quickly. We live in a world that glorifies speed. Hustle culture tells us to move fast, to respond instantly, to never pause. But reacting too quickly often leads to poor decisions. People launch businesses before understanding the market. They speak in anger before gathering their thoughts. They rush into relationships, jobs, or commitments without clarity. Speed without awareness is chaos. Strategic thinkers resist the urge to move fast just for the sake of momentum. Instead, they watch. They wait. They gather data. And when they finally move, their actions feel effortless because they were timed perfectly. Delayed action isn't weakness, it's wisdom. There's a common belief that waiting is passive, even cowardly. But strategic waiting is neither. It's purposeful. It's what separates instinct from insight. The lion doesn't chase every antelope. It waits. It studies. It chooses its target. Then it explodes with power at exactly the right time. That's how you want to think. Not every opportunity needs your immediate attention. Not every insult deserves a reaction. Not every offer should be accepted. Delayed action is not inaction. It's disciplined patience. How to recognize the right moment. So how do you know when to act? Strategic timing is both science and art. It's a mix of logic, intuition, observation, and experience. But there are signals, if you know what to look for. Here are key signs the time is right. Clarity is high. You've gathered enough information to make a thoughtful decision, not just an emotional reaction. The environment is aligned. Conditions are favorable. People, systems, or opportunities have lined up in your favor. Your emotions are steady. You're calm, centered, and not rushing out of fear, ego, or pressure. Patterns emerge. Timing often follows rhythms. Strategic people notice cycles. When markets dip and rise, when people open up or shut down, when seasons shift. Your instincts confirm. When you've done the mental work and your gut still says yes, that's often your cue. If these conditions are in place, you're more likely to make a move that leads to real, lasting impact. The cost of moving too late, on the other hand, waiting too long also carries risks. Opportunities don't last forever. People's attention shifts. The window of possibility eventually closes. Strategic thinkers don't confuse patience with paralysis. They know that timing isn't about avoiding action. It's about aligning action. Ask yourself, am I waiting because I'm afraid? Or am I waiting because the timing isn't right yet? Fear-based waiting leads to regret. Strategy-based waiting leads to momentum. Real-world examples of strategic timing, let's look at a few scenarios where timing made all the difference. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, is known not for aggressive trading, but for patient observation. He studies businesses for years before investing, and often reaps the biggest returns because of that patience. Steve Jobs delayed launching the iPad for years, even though Apple had the technology. He waited for the market to be ready. When he finally launched it, it revolutionized mobile computing. Serena Williams, one of the greatest tennis players in history, doesn't just rely on physical ability. She studies her opponent's habits. She waits for the right moment to strike, and that timing has helped her win match after match. These individuals didn't just act, they timed their actions. That's what gave them an edge. Timing in personal life. Strategic timing isn't just for business or competition. It applies in your personal life, too. In communication, know when someone is open to listening. A heartfelt message delivered at the wrong moment can fall flat. In relationships, learn when to speak, when to pause, when to support, and when to give space. In personal growth, there are seasons for pushing hard and seasons for resting. Learn to respect your internal clock as well as the external world. Mastering timing makes your life more fluid, less chaotic, and far more powerful. Developing your timing instinct. Here are some strategies to sharpen your timing. Pause before reacting. When something happens, take a breath. Count to 3. Give your mind time to engage before you act. Study the rhythms of your environment. Everything has patterns: businesses, people, emotions, markets. Learn them. Keep a timing journal. Track when things go well and when they don't. Over time, you'll spot what timing works best for you. Test small moves. Make smaller decisions to test the waters. These micro-experiments help you feel out the right moment for bigger action. Reflect after you act. After every key decision, ask, was the timing right? This builds your timing intelligence. Conclusion: let time work for you. Time can be your greatest enemy or your most powerful ally. It all depends on how you use it. The strategic thinker doesn't rush. They don't stall. They learn to listen to the moment, to sense when the stars begin to align, and to trust themselves when it's finally time to strike. When you act at the right time, you meet the right people. You step into the right opportunities. You avoid unnecessary conflict. You maximize your energy and focus. This isn't luck. It's timing, and it's a skill you can cultivate. So, as you move forward in life, remember this: you don't have to move first. You just have to move best. And that means acting not when the world tells you to, but when your strategy tells you to. Timing is everything. Master it, and you master the game. Chapter 5. The Power of Patience. Playing the long game in a world that rewards urgency and glorifies overnight success. Patience feels like a lost virtue. Everything is fast. Fast food, fast internet, fast results. We live in the age of instant gratification, where the pressure to achieve now is relentless. But if you look closely, truly successful people, those who build lasting success, deep relationships, and meaningful lives, play a different game. They play the long game. And their most underrated weapon? Patience. Patience isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the right things, over time, with intention and discipline. In this chapter, we'll explore how cultivating patience gives you strategic control over your life and positions you for bigger, more sustainable wins. Why patience is a strategic advantage to the untrained eye. Patience looks like inaction. But in truth, patience is one of the most active forms of strength. It requires self-control, vision, trust, and emotional discipline. Patience allows you to pause in a reactive world. That pause creates space for reflection, for strategy, for precision. When you are patient, you make better decisions because you're not rushing. Build stronger relationships because you're not demanding. Grow steadily because you're not burning out. Attract better opportunities because you wait for the right fit. Patience is what separates those who fizzle from those who flourish. The problem with instant gratification: our brains are wired for immediate rewards. When we get a like on social media, a text reply, or a quick win, we feel good, temporarily. But the constant chase for quick results keeps us from building anything meaningful. Instant gratification can destroy strategic thinking. It tricks us into believing that results should be immediate, that if something isn't working right now, it's not worth pursuing. But that's not how real success works. Consider, muscles aren't built in a week. They require consistent training. Trust isn't earned in one conversation. It's developed through time and honesty. Businesses don't become profitable overnight. They evolve through years of smart decisions, learning, and setbacks. The moment you stop expecting quick results, you start thinking like a strategist. You shift from reaction to vision. That shift alone gives you a massive edge in life. The long game. What it really means playing the long game means you're not just thinking about today, you're thinking about the future. You're not trying to win now at the cost of losing later. You're building something that lasts, that it's the mindset of investing, not spending, planting, not plucking, building, not burning. Long-term thinkers focus on compounding. Small actions, repeated consistently over time, lead to extraordinary outcomes. They don't chase the big win today. They plant seeds for a forest tomorrow. The long game requires three things: vision, knowing where you're going; discipline, showing up consistently; faith, trusting the process even when you can't see the results. Patience is not passive. It's strategic. Let's be clear. Patience is not passively waiting for life to happen. It's not laziness, indifference, or weakness. Strategic patience is active. It means you study while others guess, build while others boast, prepare while others rush. Wait for the right moment rather than forcing the immediate one. It's the athlete who trains for years before reaching peak performance. It's the entrepreneur who reinvests in their vision instead of spending their first profits. It's the artist who creates every day without chasing likes or attention. Strategic patience is a form of long-term positioning. You're putting yourself in the best possible place for the future, even if it means temporary discomfort now. How patience strengthens your mindset. When you cultivate patience, you're building mental toughness. You're training your brain to delay gratification, resist distraction, and stay grounded in your goals. Here's what patience teaches you: resilience. You learn to stay strong during the waiting period without giving up. Perspective. You stop obsessing over short-term results and start focusing on long-term growth. Focus. You stop switching directions every time something gets hard. You commit. Confidence. You don't panic during setbacks. You trust your process. This mindset becomes your superpower. It helps you stay calm while others rush. It helps you build depth while others skim the surface. And over time, it helps you win big without ever shouting. The quiet work behind every big win. We often admire people who make it, but we rarely see the silent work behind their success. The early mornings, the failed attempts, the lonely nights, the steady progress no one clapped for. That's patience in motion. Here are just a few examples. J.K. Rowling faced dozens of rejections before a publisher finally picked up Harry Potter. She kept writing. She kept believing. Her patience changed her life and millions of others. Jeff Bezos didn't build Amazon into a giant in 1 year. He reinvested profits, expanded slowly, and played the long game for decades. Kobe Bryant wasn't just naturally gifted. He was patient in his craft, spending hours each day mastering details no one saw. That patience is what made him great. The lesson is simple. Behind every big win is a patient heart and a disciplined mind. How to develop strategic patience. If you want to master patience, start small. Train your brain like a muscle. Here are some practical ways to develop it. Delay small gratifications. Wait 10 minutes before checking your phone. Save instead of spending. Skip the dessert. Build your discipline in tiny ways. Track long-term goals. Break your vision into milestones. Celebrate progress, not just results. Journal your progress. Write down what you're doing, how you're growing, and what you're learning, even if there's no immediate reward. Practice daily consistency. Whether it's reading, writing, working out, or learning, commit to doing a little each day. The compound effect will surprise you. Surround yourself with long-game thinkers. Your environment shapes your patience. Avoid those obsessed with speed. Align with those who respect the process. Redefining success. Success isn't about how fast you get there. It's about how well you get there. Would you rather rise quickly and fall even faster, or grow slowly and build something unshakable? When you choose patience, you're choosing sustainability. You're choosing mastery. You're choosing wisdom over impulse. Patience gives you freedom. It frees you from rushing. It frees you from comparison. It frees you from chasing every shiny thing, and it leads to peace. Because when you trust the long game, you no longer need everything to happen now. You begin to enjoy the journey. Conclusion: trust the process. Playing the long game requires courage. It means saying no to shortcuts, ignoring the noise, and trusting the work you're doing today, even if the results are invisible right now. But make no mistake, the results will come. They just require time, consistency, and faith. The truth is, most people quit too early. They give up in the gap between effort and reward. But strategic thinkers? They hold the line. They stay the course. They keep building, quietly, steadily, and patiently. And one day, while the rest of the world is still chasing quick wins, they arrive with something real, lasting, and deeply fulfilling. This is the power of patience. This is how you win, not instantly, but inevitably. Chapter 6: Emotional Control. Calm is a superpower. In the face of pressure, provocation, or uncertainty, most people react. They lash out. They panic. They let their emotions drive their decisions. And often, they pay the price for it. But there's another kind of person, someone who doesn't fold under pressure. Someone who thinks clearly in chaos, responds instead of reacts, and remains steady when the world is shaking. That person isn't special by nature. They've simply mastered one of life's greatest powers: emotional control. Calm is not weakness. It is not indifference. Calm is clarity. It is strength, precision, and discipline under fire. In this chapter, we'll explore how mastering your emotions is one of the most powerful skills you can develop, and why it's essential to becoming a strategic thinker who wins in the long run. Why emotional control matters more than intelligence. You could be the smartest person in the room. You could have all the right ideas and a sharp strategic mind. But if you can't control your emotions, you'll sabotage yourself. Intelligence alone isn't enough. Emotional control is what puts your intelligence to work effectively. Without emotional discipline, you say things you regret, make impulsive decisions, burn bridges that could have built your future, lose focus during critical moments. On the other hand, when you maintain emotional control, you think clearly, even when others can't, maintain relationships under stress, make better decisions in high-pressure situations, lead with confidence, not chaos. Calm is the container that protects your vision, your relationships, and your reputation. The emotional triggers that derail strategy. Everyone has emotional triggers. For some, it's criticism. For others, it's rejection, disrespect, uncertainty, or fear of failure. These triggers, when unchecked, can override reason. You might be calm 90% of the time, but if you lose control during the 10% that matters most, the damage can be significant. That's why recognizing your triggers is just as important as managing them. Ask yourself, what usually throws me off balance? What types of people or situations make me reactive? What emotions override my thinking? Anger, anxiety, insecurity. Awareness is the first step toward emotional mastery. You can't control what you don't understand. The difference between reacting and responding. There's a crucial difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is automatic. It's emotion-driven. It happens without thought. Responding is intentional. It's calm. It happens after thought. Strategic people respond. They create space between what happens and what they do next. In that space is power. Let's say someone criticizes your work publicly. A reactive person might snap back defensively, damaging their reputation and escalating the situation. A person with emotional control might take a breath, respond calmly, or choose to address it later in a more private, strategic way. That one decision, born from calm, can make all the difference. Calm is contagious. Chaos is expensive in any environment. Work, home, or crisis. Emotions ripple. If you remain calm under pressure, people around you begin to steady themselves. You become the anchor. You become the leader. People trust those who stay composed when it counts. But if you bring emotional chaos, yelling, blaming, dramatizing, you create stress for others. You lose influence. You lose respect. Whether you're in a meeting, a negotiation, an argument, or a moment of personal doubt, calm becomes your advantage. It's what allows you to see the whole board while others are focused on a single piece. How? To build emotional control is a skill. Like any skill, it can be developed with awareness and practice. Here are 7 powerful ways to build it. Breathe before you speak. When emotions spike, take a slow, deep breath before responding. This simple act can shift you from reaction to reflection. Label your emotions. Say to yourself, I feel angry, or I feel anxious. Naming emotions activates the logical part of your brain and reduces their intensity. Create emotional distance. Instead of saying, I'm angry, say, I'm experiencing anger. This shift helps you realize you are not your emotions. They are just temporary states. Delay major decisions during emotional spikes. Don't make promises, threats, or commitments when you're emotionally charged. Give yourself time. Reframe your perspective. Ask, what else could this mean? Or how would a calm person handle this? Perspective can cool the heat of the moment. Train your nervous system. Practices like meditation, cold exposure, exercise, or journaling help. Your body and mind handle stress more effectively. Learn from each episode. When you lose control, reflect. What triggered you? How did you react? What could you do differently next time? Over time, you'll notice something powerful happening. You'll stop being pulled into every emotional current. You'll remain still while the storm rages around you. Emotional control and leadership and influence. If you want to lead, whether it's a team, a relationship, or your own life, you must master your emotional presence. People don't follow those who panic. They follow those who stay grounded under pressure. Emotional control gives you credibility, influence, and quiet authority. In negotiations, it prevents you from tipping your hand. In conflict, it helps you hold space for others without losing your center. In uncertainty, it allows you to stay strategic while others scramble. The calm person owns the room, not by force, but by stability. Emotional control in everyday life beyond high-stakes situations. Emotional control is a daily tool. It helps you avoid petty arguments, navigate traffic and delays without stress, stay present in conversations instead of spiraling into assumptions, maintain joy and focus during minor setbacks. That you'll realize how much energy you save by not reacting to every inconvenience. That saved energy becomes fuel for creativity, focus, and long-term progress. Misconceptions about calmness. Some people fear that being calm means being passive, boring, or weak. But true calm isn't the absence of emotion. It's the management of emotion. You can be passionate and calm, driven and calm, decisive and calm. In fact, calm is what allows you to access those higher qualities with consistency and control. The silent power of inner stillness. Imagine walking into a room filled with stress, noise, and confusion. Everyone's talking fast, worrying aloud, making erratic decisions. Now picture one person standing still, eyes clear, posture steady, voice calm. Who do you trust in that room? Stillness signals power. It signals someone who is in control, not just of the situation, but of themselves. That's the power of emotional control. It turns you into a lighthouse, grounded, steady, and capable of guiding others through the storm. Conclusion: calm is your competitive edge in the game of life. It's not always the loudest or the fastest who win. It's the clearest. And clarity comes from emotional control. The world will test you. People will push your buttons. Situations will provoke fear, frustration, or anger. But every time you choose calm, you choose strength. You stay connected to your values. You protect your energy. You act instead of reacting. Calm is not a personality trait. It's a decision. A decision to pause, to breathe, to lead. In the silent moments between stimulus and response lies the most powerful move you can make. The move that isn't loud or dramatic, but deeply strategic, because in the end, calm is a superpower, and the person who masters it is unstoppable. Chapter 7. Thinking several steps ahead. The chessboard of life is not a straight line. It's a complex web of choices, interactions, and consequences. Like a grand chessboard, every move you make opens new paths and closes others. Those who only think about their next step often find themselves cornered. But those who think several steps ahead play a very different game. They win not by reacting, but by anticipating. In this chapter, we explore how thinking ahead, like A master chess player can transform the way you live, lead, and make decisions. It's not about controlling every outcome. It's about preparing for what's possible and positioning yourself intelligently for the future. This is the mindset of long-term thinkers, of visionaries, of silent strategists who don't just survive life's game, they master it. Life is strategy, not guesswork. Many people drift through life responding to whatever comes their way. A job offer appears, they take it. A conflict arises, they react emotionally. An opportunity sounds exciting, they chase it, even if it's not aligned. This reactive way of living keeps you stuck in short-term cycles. But the strategic thinker plays life like chess, deliberately, patiently, and with foresight. In chess, you don't just move a piece because it looks good now. You move with purpose, thinking about what that move will mean 2, 3, or 5 turns later. Every move sets up the next. And in life, every decision does the same. The cost of short-term thinking: when you only think one step ahead, you make impulsive choices. You prioritize comfort over growth. You miss hidden consequences. You lose control of your direction. Short-term thinkers often find themselves in crisis mode, constantly fixing problems instead of preventing them. They chase trends instead of building timeless skills. They settle for what's easy now, only to struggle later. Thinking ahead protects you from this cycle. It helps you make choices today that your future self will thank you for, not regret. The chess mindset: predict, prepare, position. Thinking several steps ahead doesn't mean you become paranoid or rigid. It means you develop a strategic mindset based on 3 core skills: predict, anticipate likely outcomes. What could happen if I take this action? What are the second and third level effects? Prepare, get ready for multiple scenarios. Don't just plan for success, plan for obstacles, delays, and detours. Position, align your current actions with your future goals. Even if a move doesn't bring immediate rewards, is it setting you up for long-term advantage? A chess master doesn't win with a flashy move. They win because all their small moves were building towards something bigger. That's how you want to approach your life. How to think multiple steps ahead in daily life. Let's break this idea into real-world examples. 1. Career decisions. Short-term thinking says, take the job that pays the most today. Long-term thinking asks, will this role develop skills I need for my bigger goals? Does it align with my vision, values, and lifestyle? Where will this path likely take me in 5 years? 2. Relationships. Short-term thinking says, react emotionally during arguments. Demand instant validation. Long-term thinking asks, what effect will my words have in this moment and long term? Am I building trust or burning it? Is this relationship moving in the direction I truly want? 3. Habits and health. Short-term thinking says, skip the workout. Eat the comfort food. Stay up late. Long-term thinking asks, how will this choice affect my body, mind, and energy over time? Am I sacrificing my future for a fleeting comfort today? When you begin thinking several steps ahead, your daily choices become investments. Every action is part of a larger picture. Pattern recognition. The key to prediction: thinking ahead requires the ability to see patterns. Patterns in your behavior, in others' behavior, in systems, markets, and trends. The more you study these patterns, the better you become at forecasting likely outcomes. Ask yourself, what keeps happening in this situation? What behaviors lead to success or failure in this area? What happened the last time I made a similar choice? History doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. Strategic thinkers pay attention to that rhythm. Play offense, not just defense. Most people go through life playing defense, reacting to problems, avoiding risk, and protecting what they have. Strategic thinkers play offense. They set goals. They initiate conversations. They build relationships before they're needed. They prepare for opportunities before they arrive. Thinking several steps ahead allows you to take control of your future instead of waiting for it to happen to you. You shift from being at the mercy of life's game to actively shaping it. Mental models to support strategic thinking. Here are a few thinking tools that help you step into the chessboard mindset. Second-order thinking: always ask, and then what? Think about the consequence of the consequence. Inversion thinking: instead of asking how to succeed, ask, what would guarantee failure? Then avoid those actions. Scenario planning: plan for different futures, best case, worst case, and most likely. Make sure your actions are strong across all 3. Opportunity cost: Every yes is a no to something else. Think about what you're giving up by making a certain move. The danger of overthinking thinking ahead doesn't mean you become stuck in planning mode forever. Some people use strategizing as a way to avoid risk. But inaction is also a decision with consequences. The goal isn't perfection. It's preparedness. You want to think enough steps ahead to make smart, bold moves, not hesitant ones. Remember, a chess player still makes a move. They don't stare at the board forever. How to start thinking several steps ahead? You don't need to be a genius to start playing life like chess. You just need to pause, reflect, and ask deeper questions before making key decisions. Here's a simple process. Clarify your endgame. What do you ultimately want? Where are you trying to go? Break it down. What steps or moves will get you there? In what order? Visualize the path. What will each step likely lead to? What could go wrong? Stay flexible. Be ready to adapt, but stay aligned with your goal. Adjust along the way. After every move, reevaluate the board. Ask what changed. What's next? Thinking ahead is a skill you sharpen over time. Each decision becomes a lesson in strategy. Conclusion: play to win the long game. Life isn't just a series of isolated events. It's a chain reaction. Each choice sets up the next. Each habit compounds. Each conversation, connection, and commitment shifts the direction of your journey. When you start thinking several steps ahead, you begin to live with purpose. You stop drifting and start directing. You become intentional about your growth, your time, and your energy. Not every move will be perfect, but when you think strategically, your average decision quality skyrockets. And that's what leads to powerful, long-term success. So treat your life like a chessboard. Move deliberately. Anticipate intelligently. Stay calm under pressure. And always remember, you don't have to move first. You just have to move right. That's how the quiet strategist wins the game. Chapter 8. Invisible Influence. Winning without being noticed. In a world obsessed with visibility, loud voices, and flashy success, the quietest player often holds the most power. You may not see them coming. They're not the ones boasting on social media, dominating conversations, or demanding attention in meetings. But behind the scenes, they move people, shape decisions, and steer outcomes, all without being noticed. This is the art of invisible influence, and it's one of the most subtle and effective forms of strategic power. You don't need to shout to win. In fact, the less you demand attention, the more powerful your influence becomes. The true strategist doesn't aim to impress. They aim to impact. In this chapter, we explore how to master silent persuasion, how to plant ideas without resistance, and how to move the world without forcing it to notice you. The illusion of loud power. Modern culture rewards visibility. It teaches us to build a personal brand, to be outspoken, to post, share, perform. We're told that if people don't see you winning, you must be losing. But visibility and influence are not the same. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they're leading. And just because someone is quiet doesn't mean they're passive. Often, the most influential person in the room isn't the one speaking. It's the one everyone listens to when they speak. Influence isn't about volume. It's about presence. It's about the ability to shape thoughts and actions subtly, intelligently, and effectively. What is invisible influence? Invisible influence is the art of guiding decisions, changing minds, and inspiring action without forcing it. It's not manipulation. It's not deception. It's strategic subtlety. It involves planting ideas gently, without pressure, asking questions that lead others to your point of view, building trust quietly over time, making people feel like the decision was theirs, even when you guided it, creating an environment where your presence shapes behavior without commands. It's the difference between pushing and pulling, the difference between telling and inspiring, the difference between being heard now and being remembered later. Why? Invisible influence works. Humans resist force. When they feel pushed, they push back. But when they feel they're in control, they're more open to change. That's why invisible influence is so powerful. It bypasses resistance. It works because it feels natural, not forced. It empowers others, which builds trust. It appeals to ego subtly by letting others believe they arrived at the idea themselves. It builds long-term credibility, not just short-term compliance. The quiet strategist influences people without them realizing it, until the outcome is already aligned with their intention. Tools of the invisible influencer. The power of question statements can feel aggressive, but questions feel open, curious, and non-threatening. A well-timed question can plant a seed that grows in someone's mind long after the conversation ends. Examples: what would happen if we tried it this way? How do you think this decision will look in 6 months? What's the most important outcome for you here? Good questions guide thought. They shape decisions silently. Mirroring and matching people are influenced by those who feel familiar. When you subtly mirror someone's tone, energy, or communication style, they feel understood. This lowers resistance and increases your influence. Note: this must be subtle and genuine, not forced or robotic. Timing over tension. Influence often fails because it's poorly timed. Strategic influencers wait. They know when someone is open to input and when they're closed off. By observing emotions, energy, and context, you can choose the perfect moment to suggest, guide, or lead. Letting others take credit. The invisible influencer doesn't need the spotlight. They're more interested in results than recognition. Often, they let others think the idea was theirs because it increases commitment and removes ego battles. You win more when you stop caring who gets the credit. Consistent presence. Influence is built over time. Quiet consistency earns deep trust. By showing up, listening, staying calm, and offering value, even in small ways, you become a trusted presence that others instinctively turn to. Psychological principles behind invisible influence. Reciprocity. People are more open to those who give first. Offering help, ideas, or support without expectation builds silent loyalty. Social proof. When others see you being respected, even quietly, they're more likely to trust your input. Influence grows in the background of credibility. Scarcity of voice. When you speak less, people listen more. If your words are rare but valuable, your influence deepens. Silence, used wisely, makes your voice louder. Influence in action, real world. Examples: a junior employee listens during meetings, supports teammates, and asks thoughtful questions. Over time, people start seeking their opinion, even senior leaders. A coach doesn't yell instructions. They ask key questions between games, observe players closely, and offer quiet feedback. Performance improves without pressure. A partner in a relationship doesn't argue loudly. They remain calm during conflict, listen more than they speak, and lead through example. Over time, their steadiness reshapes the emotional tone of the relationship. None of these people were dominant or attention-seeking. They simply understood the power of subtle guidance. Invisible influence in leadership. Leaders often think they must command, direct, and assert constantly. But the best leaders know that influence beats authority. They create cultures through behavior, not speeches. They inspire loyalty through quiet integrity, not force. They mentor through presence, not performance. Invisible influence builds long-term buy-in. People follow not because they have to, but because they want to. How to develop your own invisible influence. Master observation. Watch how people think, act, and respond. Influence begins with understanding. Speak less, listen more. The less you talk, the more you learn. And the more people feel heard, the more they open to your guidance. Ask instead of tell. Use questions to shift direction. Let others arrive at the insight on their own, with your help behind the scenes. Build without boasting. Let your work speak for itself. The quieter you are, the more powerful your results become. Detach from credit. Influence is about impact, not applause. Be steady, not reactive. The calm, consistent person becomes the one others trust, especially in chaos. Conclusion. The silent hand that moves the world. True power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It nudges. It plants seeds and watches them grow without shouting for recognition. Invisible influence is the art of quiet power. It's about leading without labels, guiding without force, and winning without noise. It's the strategy of those who think several steps ahead, who value results over attention, and who understand the real game isn't how many people see you, but how many are moved by you, without even realizing it. When you master this, you stop needing to prove yourself. You don't chase influence. You become it, silently, strategically, powerfully. Chapter 9. Micro decisions, macro results. The small choices that shape your destiny. When we think of life-changing decisions, we often picture the big ones: the job offer, the relationship, the leap of faith, the bold move. But what if the real power lies not in the big decisions, but in the small ones? The quiet, everyday choices that no one sees. The ones you make when no one's watching. These are micro decisions, the tiny, seemingly insignificant moments that accumulate over time and ultimately shape the trajectory of your life. Just like water carving stone, these decisions may seem subtle, but they are persistent. And over time, they produce macro results. This chapter is a reminder that strategy isn't just about massive shifts. It's about how you handle the little things consistently, deliberately, and with awareness. The myth of the big break. We love the idea of the big moment, the breakthrough, the lucky break, the instant transformation. But this belief hides a deeper truth. Big moments are built on small movements. What looks like an overnight success is usually the result of thousands of micro decisions. Choosing discipline over distraction, choosing kindness over ego, choosing growth over comfort. These are the silent wins that build a powerful life. A promotion often comes from months of consistent effort. A deep relationship comes from daily emotional investment. Financial freedom comes from hundreds of small savings decisions, not one lucky investment. The truth? Your next big win is likely hiding in your next small choice. What are micro decisions? Micro decisions are whether you hit snooze or get up, whether you scroll or read, whether you reply calmly or react emotionally, whether you move your body or stay stagnant, whether you follow your plan or let your impulses lead. They may seem insignificant in the moment, but compounded over weeks, months, and years, they determine the shape of your reality. You are not defined by one big choice. You are shaped by thousands of small ones. Why micro decisions matter more than you think. Micro decisions have two major effects. They shape your identity. Every small decision reinforces a belief about who you are. If you decide to study instead of watch TV, you're voting for the identity of someone who values growth. If you choose patience over anger, you reinforce emotional strength. Each micro decision is a brick in the foundation of your self-image. They create compound results, much like compounding interest in finance. Small decisions generate exponential effects over time. If you read for 15 minutes every day, that's over 90 hours a year. If you eat 100 extra calories a day, that's 10 pounds of weight gained annually. Tiny choices, repeated consistently, lead to big consequences. The strategic power of awareness. The difference between reactive living and strategic living lies in awareness. Most people move through their days on autopilot, unaware of the hundreds of decisions they make. But when you start noticing your micro decisions, everything changes. You start to live on purpose. You start asking, does this choice move me closer to who I want to be? Is this decision aligned with my long-term goals? Will I regret or respect this choice tomorrow? This shift doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. The power lies in noticing and choosing consciously. The micro decisions that matter most. Not all micro decisions are equal. Some have more weight because they influence how you think, act, and feel throughout the day. Here are a few high-impact ones. Your morning routine. How you start your day affects your mindset, energy, and productivity. Choosing to begin with intention rather than distraction sets a powerful tone. Your response to setbacks. Do you react emotionally or respond thoughtfully? Every challenge is a test of your emotional strategy. How you use idle time. Do you scroll, complain, or daydream aimlessly? Or do you reflect, plan, or rest intentionally? What you feed your mind, what you read, watch, and listen to shapes your beliefs. Small choices in media consumption influence your mental landscape. The people you engage with, who you give your time and energy to every day, affects your mood, focus, and direction. Choose wisely. These aren't big, flashy decisions. They're invisible to most, but they define the difference between living reactively and living powerfully. Turning micro decisions into micro habits. The best way to master micro decisions is to turn them into micro habits, small actions you repeat daily with intention. You don't need massive willpower to do this. You need systems that support consistency. Here's how to build them. Start with identity. Decide who you want to be. I am someone who takes care of my body, or I am a focused, strategic thinker. Your actions will begin to follow that identity. Make it easy. Reduce friction. If you want to read more, place your book where you can see it. If you want to eat better, keep healthy food in sight. Anchor your habits, attach new habits to existing ones. For example, after I brush my teeth, I write one sentence in my journal. Track your wins, keep a micro-habit tracker. Mark each day you complete the habit. The visual progress becomes motivating. Celebrate small victories, don't wait for the big milestone to feel proud. Celebrate the days you followed through. Small wins build momentum. Real-world examples of micro-decisions leading to macro results. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, built a career by writing small blog posts consistently over years. He didn't go viral overnight. He built credibility. Slowly, one article at a time. Athletes like Serena Williams don't become elite from occasional effort. It's the thousands of small decisions, early wake-ups, disciplined nutrition, focused practice that lead to greatness. Warren Buffett credits his financial empire not to big bets, but to consistent, sound investing decisions made daily over decades. It was never about one big move. It was about endless small ones. Micro decisions in your daily life. Want to change your future? Start with these kinds of choices. Wake up when you said you would. Eat one healthy meal instead of fast food. Choose a 10-minute walk over 10 minutes of scrolling. Pause before replying in frustration. Read one page of a book instead of watching one more video. None of these seem life-changing, but together, they change your life. The compound strategy. Think in years. Act in moments. You don't need to make massive moves every day. You just need to make better small moves consistently. Think in terms of years, but act in terms of moments. Ask, what small choice today moves me toward my bigger vision? What habits am I reinforcing right now? Success doesn't come from intensity. It comes from consistency. Conclusion, the silent power of small things. Life isn't changed in a single moment. It's changed in many small moments, stacked, shaped, and aligned over time. That micro decisions are your daily training ground. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, growth over comfort, or presence over autopilot, you shift the trajectory of your future, quietly but powerfully. This is how silent strategists win. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They don't rely on motivation. They build momentum through the smallest decisions, and they do it every single day. Because when you master your micro decisions, the macro results will take care of themselves. Chapter 10. Silence as a Strategy. When saying nothing says everything in a noisy world filled with constant chatter, relentless notifications, and nonstop opinions, silence can feel uncomfortable or even wrong. Many believe that to be heard, you must speak more, louder, and faster. But there's a profound and often overlooked truth. Silence is one of the most powerful strategies you can master. Silence isn't emptiness. It's a presence, a statement, a tool. When used deliberately, silence communicates confidence, control, and wisdom. It says more than words ever could. Sometimes everything. In this chapter, we will explore how mastering silence can transform your strategic thinking, influence your relationships, and elevate your personal power. The power of silence in communication. Have you ever noticed how silence in a conversation often makes people uncomfortable? We rush to fill the void with words, explanations, or defenses. But silence holds a unique kind of power. It forces reflection. When you pause, others start thinking, sometimes questioning their own assumptions. It commands attention. In a room full of noise, silence stands out. It draws focus to you and what you might say next. It controls the pace. Silence gives you control over the rhythm of communication. It prevents you from being rushed or trapped. It creates space for better decisions. Without rushing to respond, you gather information, gauge reactions, and plan your next move. Silence is an active choice. It is not avoidance or weakness. It is strategic restraint. When saying less speaks volumes, consider the following situations. In negotiations, a well-timed pause after an offer makes the other side uncomfortable. They often fill the silence with concessions or additional information. During conflicts, refusing to react immediately allows you to maintain composure and avoid escalating tensions. In meetings, a thoughtful silence before answering a difficult question signals confidence and thoughtfulness. In social settings, listening quietly while others talk lets you gather insights others miss and makes your eventual words carry more weight. In each case, silence is not emptiness, but a powerful form of communication. The psychological impact. Of silence, humans are wired to seek social cues. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty demands attention. When you remain silent, you shift the emotional balance. People often feel compelled to break the silence to reduce discomfort. You create space for projection. Others may fill the silence with their own thoughts, fears, or hopes, often revealing more than they intended. You signal self-control and emotional strength, which naturally attracts respect. Silence speaks to the subconscious. It conveys a message beyond words, one of calm authority. Silence as a tool for strategic thinking. Sometimes the best decision isn't to speak immediately, but to hold your words until you have clarity. Silence allows you to process complex information without pressure. Avoid impulsive remarks that could damage relationships or your reputation. Position yourself to speak with greater impact when the moment is right. The space between stimulus and response is where strategic advantage lives. Mastering silence helps you create that space. How to use silence effectively. Pause before responding instead of reacting instantly. Take a breath. A brief pause can turn a knee-jerk reaction into a thoughtful reply. Use silence in negotiations after making an offer or proposal. Stay silent and let the other party respond first. This often leads to more information and better terms. Listen more than you speak. Make silence your default. When you speak less, people reveal more. They appreciate being heard and valued. Be comfortable with discomfort. Don't rush to fill awkward silences. Accept the discomfort. They are often signs that you're gaining control. Use silence to diffuse conflict when emotions run high. Choosing silence over argument allows tensions to cool and opens the door for constructive dialogue. Silence versus passive silence. It's important to distinguish strategic silence from passive silence. Passive silence is avoidance, fear, or neglect. It often leads to misunderstanding or loss of respect. Strategic silence is intentional, purposeful, and controlled. It's a choice to say less to gain more. Strategic silence requires confidence. It means trusting that your words have power, even when you hold them back. Silence in leadership. Great leaders know when to speak and when to hold their tongues. Why using silence strategically. Leaders encourage others to contribute ideas. Demonstrate openness and humility. Create space for reflection and creativity. Avoid unnecessary conflict and impulsive decisions. Silence is a signal of strength, not weakness. It invites collaboration and thoughtful action. Silence in personal relationships. In personal life, silence can be just as impactful. It allows space for empathy and understanding. It prevents escalation during disagreements. It communicates respect by giving others room to express themselves. It deepens connection by making your eventual words more meaningful. Remember, sometimes saying nothing is the kindest and most powerful thing you can do. Cultivating comfort with silence. If you're uncomfortable with silence, start small. Practice pausing before answering simple questions. Spend a few minutes each day in quiet reflection. Notice how people react when you choose silence in conversations. Observe how silence affects your emotions and clarity. Over time, you'll develop a healthy relationship with silence, a skill that sharpens your mind and strengthens your presence. Conclusion: the strength of saying nothing in the game of strategy. Noise is the enemy of clarity. Words are powerful, but silence, when wielded well, is even more so. Silence is your silent ally. It lets you listen deeper, think clearer, and influence subtly. It's the strategic pause that turns a move into a masterstroke. When you master the art of silence, you don't just communicate, you command. You don't just participate, you lead. And sometimes, the most impactful thing you can say is nothing at all. Chapter 11. Case Studies of Silent Strategists. Real-life power moves. Theory is powerful, but real-life examples illuminate the path to mastery. The art of silent strategy isn't a mysterious concept reserved for elite few. It's a mindset and skill demonstrated daily by individuals across history and modern life who've achieved remarkable success through quiet, deliberate action. In this chapter, we explore real-life case studies of silent strategists who won by moving subtly, thinking ahead, and influencing without fanfare. Their stories reveal how powerful silent moves can be, and how you can apply these lessons to your own life. Case Study 1. Abraham Lincoln. The quiet commander Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, was renowned not for bombast, but for his calm, steady presence in the most turbulent times. Silent strength in crisis. During the Civil War, Lincoln faced relentless pressure from political rivals, generals, and the public. Instead of reacting emotionally, he remained composed, listening carefully and weighing his options. Strategic patience. He delayed major decisions, like the Emancipation Proclamation, until the moment was right, maximizing impact and minimizing backlash. Influence through presence. Lincoln's speeches were deliberate and measured. He didn't overwhelm with words, but used silence and pacing to make his points resonate deeply. Lesson: silent strength in leadership can stabilize chaos and create lasting change. Patience and calm amplify influence. Case Study 2. Warren Buffett. The Oracle of Omaha's quiet consistency. Warren Buffett is famous for his humble demeanor and measured approach, standing in stark contrast to the noisy world of finance. Micro decisions. Macro results. Buffett's success comes from countless small, strategic investment decisions made patiently over decades. He avoids flashy moves and market hype. Strategic listening. He spends much of his day reading and observing, rarely speaking. Impulsively. Buffett listens more than he talks, gaining insights others miss. Invisible influence. Buffett rarely seeks the spotlight, yet his investment choices quietly shape markets and industries. Lesson: long-term success is built on quiet, consistent decisions and strategic patience. Case Study 3. Rosa Parks. The silent protest that changed history. Rosa Parks' refusal to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus wasn't a loud protest. It was a silent, powerful act of resistance. Silence as resistance. Parks didn't yell or protest loudly. She simply refused to move. Her quiet defiance sparked a massive civil rights movement. Strategic timing. The moment was chosen deliberately, backed by organizers who understood the power of a focused, silent stand. Influence without words. Parks's act communicated volumes, showing strength, dignity, and resolve without a single shout. Lesson: sometimes, silence itself is the strongest statement you can make. Case Study 4. Angela Merkel, the silent architect of European stability. Angela Merkel, former Chancellor of Germany, was known for her low-key, pragmatic leadership style. Calm under pressure, Merkel navigated numerous crises, from financial crashes to migration issues, with measured calm, avoiding dramatic statements or rash moves. Strategic silence. She often chose to withhold immediate opinion, letting others speak first and gathering information before responding. Invisible influence. Merkel's quiet diplomacy shaped EU policies profoundly, often behind closed doors rather than in headlines. Lesson: influence isn't always about being front and center. It can be built through quiet diplomacy and thoughtful listening. Case Study 5. Satya Nadella. Transforming Microsoft. Quietly, when Satya Nadella became CEO of Microsoft in 2014, he inherited a company struggling with relevance in a fast-changing tech world. Listening first. Nadella spent his early days quietly listening to employees, customers, and industry trends before making bold moves. Changing culture silently. Rather than loud announcements, he shifted Microsoft's culture toward learning and collaboration with consistent, steady reinforcement. Strategic patience. Nadella prioritized long-term innovation over short-term hype, leading to a revival that transformed Microsoft's value. Lesson: transformative leadership can come from quiet reflection, listening, and steady strategic shifts. Case Study 6. Malala Yousafzai. The power of quiet courage. Malala's influence stems not from loud rhetoric, but from her calm, steadfast commitment to education and human rights despite extreme adversity. Silent strength. After surviving an assassination attempt, Malala chose a path of peaceful advocacy rather than retaliation. Thoughtful communication. Her speeches and writings are measured, inspiring empathy and action through clarity rather than volume. Global influence. Without dominating headlines constantly, Malala's quiet courage has inspired millions worldwide. Lesson: courageous calmness can amplify influence and inspire lasting change. Applying these lessons to your life, these silent strategists succeeded not by shouting louder, but by choosing their moments carefully. They didn't rush to act or speak, but waited for the right time. Listening deeply, they gathered information, understood perspectives, and avoided impulsivity. Leading with presence, they cultivated calm, confidence, and consistency that drew others naturally. Influencing subtly, they guided decisions without forcing them, planting seeds rather than shouting commands. How you can be a silent strategist today: practice patience, delay immediate reactions. Think before you move. Cultivate listening skills, make space for others. Listen to understand, not just to respond. Be consistent in small actions, build credibility through reliability over time. Choose silence strategically, know when to hold your words for greater impact. Led by example, demonstrate your values through actions, not just words. Conclusion: the quiet path to power isn't always loud, flashy, or aggressive. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, and patient. The silent strategists featured in these case studies show us that true influence often comes from those who master the art of waiting, watching, and moving with intention. Their success isn't just in what they said or did, but in how they thought, when they acted, and why they chose silence. When you learn to move like them, you unlock a deep, enduring kind of power. One that changes not just your life, but the world around you. The game isn't won by noise, that it's won by the silent moves that create unstoppable momentum. Chapter 12. Your Strategic Life Plan. Daily Habits for Silent Mastery. Mastering silent strategy is not an overnight transformation. It is the result of deliberate, consistent habits, small daily actions that shape your mindset, sharpen your awareness, and strengthen your influence without noise or flash. This chapter lays out a practical, step-by-step guide to building your strategic life plan through daily habits designed for silent mastery. These habits help you think deeply, act intentionally, and influence quietly, turning strategic thinking from concept into living practice. The foundation: why daily habits matter. Silent mastery isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistency. Like a sculptor chiseling stone, the tiniest daily habits create the contours of your character and influence over time. Habits shape your identity. They reduce the mental energy needed for good decisions and build momentum toward your goals. When your habits align with strategic thinking, silent influence becomes effortless. It's how you live rather than just something you try. Habit 1. Start your day with intentional stillness before the rush begins. Spend 5 to 10 minutes in quiet reflection. Why? Silence cultivates presence, calms the mind, and sets a thoughtful tone for your day. How? Sit comfortably, focus on your breath, or journal a few intentions or strategic priorities. Result: you approach the day with clarity instead of reaction. Habit 2. Observe before you act. Throughout the day, practice pausing to observe situations fully before responding. Why? Observation is the root of silent influence and strategic thinking. How? When faced with decisions or conversations, take a breath, note your emotions, and listen attentively. Result: you respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Habit 3. Ask strategic questions. Replace statements and assumptions with curious, open-ended questions. Why? Questions guide others to think deeply and align without resistance. How? Use questions like, what do you think is the best next step? Or, how does this fit into our long-term goals? Result: you foster collaboration and subtle influence. Habit 4. Practice thoughtful silence. Make it a habit to pause before speaking, especially in high-stakes or emotional situations. Why? Silence increases your presence and prevents rash decisions. How? Count to 3 silently before responding. Let others fill the silence. Result: your words carry more weight and you maintain control. Habit 5. Reflect on micro-decisions daily and each day by reviewing your small choices and their alignment with your goals. Why? Reflection builds awareness and reinforces identity. How? Journal about key decisions, emotions, and moments of influence or restraint. Result: you improve your decision-making and deepen strategic thinking. Habit 6. Prioritize deep work session. Schedule focused blocks of time without distractions to tackle your most important tasks. Why? Strategic thinking requires mental space and concentration. How? Turn off notifications, set clear objectives, and work in intervals, e.g., Pomodoro technique. Result: you make progress on meaningful goals quietly and consistently. Habit 7. Limit noise and overstimulation. Control your environment. to reduce unnecessary noise, distractions, and information overload. Why? A quiet mind enhances strategic clarity and emotional control. How? Set boundaries on social media, emails, and multitasking. Result: you conserve mental energy for what truly matters. Habit 8. Cultivate emotional control. Develop techniques to stay calm under pressure and regulate your emotions. Why? Emotional calm is a superpower of silent strategists. How? Practice deep breathing, mindfulness, or pause and assess routines. Result: you respond with composure, strengthening your influence. Habit 9. Build consistent micro-habits. Identify small, repeatable habits aligned with your strategic goals. Why? Micro-habits compound to create powerful long-term results. How? Start with tiny actions, e.g., 5 minutes of reading, 1 deliberate conversation, and scale gradually. Result: progress becomes automatic and sustainable. Habit 10. Surround yourself with strategic influence. Choose to spend time with thoughtful, intentional people who support your growth. Why? Your environment shapes your mindset and habits. How? Engage in meaningful conversations, mentorships, or mastermind groups. Result: you deepen your strategic thinking and silent mastery through collective wisdom, creating your personalized strategic life plan. Define your vision. What does silent mastery look like for you? Write a clear statement of your long-term strategic goals. Select core habits. Choose 3 to 5 daily habits from above that resonate most with your life and goals. Schedule and commit. Block time in your calendar for these habits. Treat them as non-negotiable appointments. Track progress. Use a journal, app, or calendar checkmarks to monitor consistency and reflect weekly. Adjust and evolve. Periodically reassess your habits and goals. Add new habits or modify existing ones as you grow. The ripple effect of silent mastery. When you commit to these habits, you don't just improve your thinking. You change your entire approach to life. You become more intentional in decisions, more resilient under pressure, more influential without force, more aligned with your deepest goals. Silent mastery isn't a destination, it's a way of life. It transforms how you move through the world, turning every day into a strategic opportunity. Final thought: your life, your moves every day offers countless chances to practice silent strategy. Through consistent habits, you cultivate the mindset and presence that creates silent moves with big wins. Remember, it's not about rushing or making noise, that it's about steady, purposeful action. Your silent mastery begins now, with the choices you make today. Conclusion: become the silent force that shapes your destiny. As we arrive at the end of this journey through silent moves, big wins, the ultimate guide to strategic thinking that changes your life, it's essential to pause and reflect on the power you now hold within your grasp. The path of silent strategy may not be the loudest or flashiest, but it is the one that leads to lasting, meaningful transformation. You have learned that true power is not measured by how loudly you proclaim your intentions or how visible your actions are. Instead, it is rooted in quiet confidence, deliberate thought, and subtle influence. The silent strategist moves with intention, controls their emotions, observes deeply, and acts patiently. They understand that success is built from thousands of small, consistent choices rather than a single grand gesture. The essence of silent power. Becoming a silent force means mastering the art of moving without noise, influencing without force, and winning without the need for applause. It is about cultivating a presence that commands respect simply through calm assurance and thoughtful action. This form of power is sustainable because it resists the volatility of ego and emotion, builds trust through consistent integrity, creates momentum through subtle but persistent effort, navigates complexity with clear-headed foresight. Your destiny is shaped by your daily moves. Remember, your destiny is not the result of chance or luck. It is the sum of your micro-decisions made each day, the habits you develop, the moments you choose silence over reaction, and the patience you cultivate in waiting for the right moment to act. All these silent moves accumulate into the macro results that define your life. The silent strategist knows that every choice matters. You don't need to shout to be heard. You only need to be intentional. Embrace the power of strategic silence, when wielded skillfully, becomes your most powerful communication tool. It allows you to listen more, speak less, and lead better. It helps you diffuse conflict, build deeper connections, and command presence without demanding it. This is not silence born of fear or hesitation. It is silence born of strength, carrying the legacy forward as you move forward. Take these truths with you. Think before you move. Strategic thinking is your compass. Observe more, speak less. Let your perception guide your influence. Be patient. The long game is where true wins happen. Control your emotions. Calmness is your superpower. Plan your life through silent, consistent habits. Small actions build big futures. You are now equipped to navigate life's loud games with quiet mastery. Your call to action. The world often rewards those who shout the loudest, but history remembers those who move the pieces quietly and wisely. Your challenge is to become that silent force, unseen but unstoppable, quiet but commanding. Step into your power with humility and resolve. Let your silent moves speak louder than any words ever could. Shape your destiny not by noise, but by the precision of your actions and the depth of your strategic mind. Final words: the ultimate victory belongs to those who understand that silence is not absence, it is presence. It is not weakness, but strength. It is not stillness, but movement with purpose. Become the silent force that shapes your destiny, because in the end, silent moves lead to the biggest wins.